Story 1. Much of adulthood involves doing things you have never done before and pretending you know what you are doing. Story 2. Believing your opinion strongly does not make it the most valid. Story 3. Violence is never the answer. It sure sounds like nonsense when you realize the people in power got there by committing or profiting from violence, and now want to protect it by convincing you that it is wrong. Story 4. One of society's biggest lies is believing that success is solely the result of hard work, ignoring factors like luck and systemic inequality. Story 5. People like to believe they have control over their lives. They think their success is entirely due to their efforts and that they would never have certain problems because they would find the perfect solution. The truth is, life consists of calculated risks. You do not have absolute control, and everything you do is a gamble to some degree. You can be the smartest and most hardworking person in the world and still face obstacles. A thread I posted today went viral, and I received a lot of so-called advice from people who assume my problems are easy to solve because I did not try the first idea that occurred to them. It was a clear reminder of how many people are in denial about the role of risk. Story 6. Just because you work hard and put the time in, everything will not always go your way. Sometimes relationships burn out, you lose jobs unjustly, and things just happen whether you're prepared for them or not. Story 7. Too many people seem to believe that awareness equals action. Story 8. Your intelligence is based on your level of education. Story 9. The justice system seeks fairness, and the healthcare system seeks health. Story 10. The popular opinion on Reddit is not the same as that of the majority of society. Story 11. Saying money isn't important is false. Puts a roof over your head, food in your fridge, and clothes on your back. Sure, after a certain amount it loses meaning, but it is still important. Story 12. Capitalism benefits everyone and allows ordinary people to become wealthy. Story 13. It's all in God's hands. Having been to Afghanistan, Iraq, and large portions of Africa, I'd say that's quite a statement to make. Story 14. Many people believe that a group of billionaires will help the working class and have their well-being in mind. Story 15. The government and its elected officials work for the people. Story 16. You have to be great to achieve great things. Mediocrity is celebrated in this world. Story 17. Every individual wants to be part of society. Story 18. There is a magical spirit in the sky that controls our lives and gives rewards and punishments on a whim while supposedly having a plan. Story 19. Capitalism is the only economic system we can have. Story 20. Carrots can help you see in the dark. Story 21. The idea that people are basically good is mistaken. That is not to say that people are basically bad. Some are, of course. On the whole, people are not so good. Story 22. Honesty is a great virtue. No, it is not. You need to find ways with words to get around it. Story 23. We are not different, better, or worse than one another or than other animals on this planet. Story 24. How much freedom do we have? That depends on how we are conditioned and manipulated to think and behave in certain ways, and on how little control we have within the systems in which we operate. Story 25. If you do X, Y, and Z, you will be successful. There are many differing opinions that do not work for everyone. Additionally, life throws unexpected challenges at you, so those strategies change. Story 26. Many people believe that wealthy people are self-made and became rich by being smarter and working harder than everyone else. This is not true for most of them. They often fail to acknowledge how much of an advantage comes from being born into a wealthy family. Story 27. The idea that you have free will and the songs and poems that say we all live in a cage without walls become apparent once you reach your 30s. Story 28. That authority means correctness, rightness, or goodness. Story 29. That China is not able to sway Western audiences using its own social media. Story 30. The biggest lie society believes is that you should dedicate your entire life to working for unelected elites who hoard the majority of wealth while paying you the bare minimum. Even questioning alternative ways to organize society is labeled radical, undemocratic, or absurd. Story 31. America is a democratic society and is not built on racism. Story 32. Believing the school and college system guarantees success for everyone is mistaken. Only a few succeed. Story 33. The standard pathway through life is to get an education, get a job, and then retire. Story 34. Go to school, get a job, keep your head down. That is how you succeed in life. Story 35. Hard work is rewarded. The trick is that the reward is often more work. Story 36. The claim that money does not buy happiness is a lie made up by the rich to keep those who have less in their place so they can keep it all. Story 37. Everyone is equal and capable of achieving the same success. Story 38. That punitive approach is the way to treat our criminal population. Story 39. Political parties are organizations that exist to seek the common good, not merely to make a profit. Story 40. Do you have a permanent record? Not really. Your documented history is scattered, and some of it is lost or buried in a box or file cabinet. Story 41. Many people believe that if something is called a right, it cannot be taken away, but it can. Story 42. There are a lot of good ones here, but unfortunately the biggest lie is still probably religion. Story 43. Socioeconomic status is often attributed to hard work and similar factors, but it is largely determined by where and into what kind of family a person is born. Story 44. The claim that conservatives are good for the economy is questionable. 98% of jobs created in the last 45 years were under Democratic presidents. Every Republican presidential term in history has seen a recession except for Ronald Reagan's second term, which experienced a major stock market crash. Story 45. Children are a direct result of their parents' successes or failures. Story 46. The idea that there is a plan and that people know what they are doing is not true. Everyone is winging it. This includes presidents, police officers, and doctors. Do not get me wrong. A doctor undoubtedly has more of a clue than a random person about which medications to take for the flu. People are human. They make errors, they get groggy, and often a well-educated guess delivered with confidence is the name of the game in most fields. The only reason most things work is that teams of well-educated people often catch each other's mistakes. Story 47. You can one day become a billionaire if you work hard enough. Story 48. The claim that conservative policies work. No taxes, trickle-down economics, and work incentives. None of it works. Never has and never will. Story 49. Whoever validates others' anger and gives them someone to blame is the best leader. Story 50. That the government works for the people or even cares about them. Story 51. Usually most of their beliefs are entirely organic and were not engineered by someone else to exploit them. Story 52. Their side represents light and decency, and the other represents darkness and evil. Story 53. Gluten-free is considered healthy, but manufacturers often replace gluten with chemicals, and 98% of so-called healthy products are still unhealthy or worse. Story 54. I am glad that at my college we were not allowed to use American news because it did not cite its sources. Story 55. You eat an average of 8 spiders in your lifetime while you sleep. Story 56. Rich people create jobs by generating opportunities to extract wealth from labor, which in the process employ people. Jobs existed before capitalism and will exist long after it ends. As long as humans want self-perpetuating societies, there will be work to sustain them. Story 57. For Americans, the biggest lie we tell ourselves is that we have more freedom than any other nation. Story 58. That trickle-down economics is ever going to enrich the poor. Story 59. Neither the left nor the right political parties represent the will of the people. Both parties' main objective is to consolidate power and money. George Carlin said it best. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about you at all. And nobody seems to notice, nobody seems to care. That's what the owners count on. That Americans will probably remain willfully ignorant of the big red, white, and blue dick that's being jammed up their assholes every day. The truth is, it's a big club and you and I aren't in it. The second you think you are part of it and identify with one side, you've bought into the lie. Story 60. In the United States, it is said that Republicans are great for the economy. Story 61. Religion. Believing things without any factual basis is absurd. We allow it to exist in a rational society only because it is strongly tied to culture. Story 62. Each person is important. I hate to break it to you, but you are only a number. Story 63. It is not even remotely debatable. God and organized religion. Story 64. There is an invisible, all-powerful wizard in the sky who loves you very much but will torture you for eternity if you demand evidence of him. Story 65. The phrase, "there are no dumb questions," is a reminder that curiosity fuels learning and growth. It is a great way to foster an encouraging atmosphere in educational settings. However, be mindful of how questions are asked. Sometimes they carry assumptions that lead down a narrow path. For example, asking "what is the biggest lie society believes?" implies that society lacks truth, a claim we hear often. It is natural to feel surrounded by challenges, but it is empowering to rise above that mindset. Ultimately, every question contributes to understanding, and rather than labeling questions as dumb, let us celebrate the process of discovery. The tapestry of societal beliefs is woven with many truths and experiences, making the quest for knowledge a joyful adventure. Story 66. Homes are a good investment for everyone. I think the door is closing on the buyer's myth. Story 67. There are good, smart, and skilled people at the top. Most reach those positions by unethical means and bootlicking. Story 68. That we need to enslave, torture, sexually exploit, mutilate, and slaughter other sentient beings for survival. Story 69. We, as individuals, do not have to take responsibility for where society stands. Story 70. We are being conditioned to believe that big corporations, governments, or other large entities cannot be changed by individual actions. We are told the elites will always get away with things. That is false. Individual acts, repeated across many people, make a huge difference. The boycott of McDonald's and other brands during the Palestine conflict is a clear example. Those companies were forced to offer large discounts and even rebrand to try to recover. Nestle is a terrible company. If we all boycott collectively and clearly explain the reasons, the movement will gain traction. It will not be quick or easy, but it can happen. There are many examples where small contributions have made huge differences. Story 71. The majority of people are selfish, stupid, lazy, emotionally damaged, lying misanthropes pretending to be something they are not just to get along. Story 72. Most people believe they are rational, but they are often rational only when it is convenient. Story 73. America is free if you follow the rules. If you question them, it becomes a problem. Story 74. In American society, there is a belief that politicians are fighting for the little people. Story 75. The belief that you need top schools and high marks to succeed is one of the biggest lies. Story 76. All of society is a construct. A lack of this understanding often impedes change because many assume that, since we were told it has been this way forever, it should remain so and cannot or should not be changed. This is wrong. Together we decide how society works. Story 77. The accumulation of wealth at the cost of everything else is inevitable. Story 78. If you work hard and are honest and kind, everything will work out well. Story 79. You do not have to tolerate someone's harmful behavior or keep them in your life just because they are family. The sooner you let go of that belief and make changes, the easier life will become. Story 80. Nobody truly cares for others. Nobody will put anyone ahead of themselves, even though they say they will. Story 81. Society's biggest lie is that we can live and function in a society without any problems. Story 82. Everyone is literally just a child pretending to be an adult. Story 83. Free will. There is no free will. Our decisions are predetermined by prior events and natural laws. The universe is deterministic. You are a collection of neurons that respond predictably. Given any sequence of prior inputs, a neuron will produce a predictable output. No matter how many neurons are combined, experimental results support this. A group of neurons produces outputs determined by the sequence of inputs to the system. They do not have free will. There is nothing special about human neurons or groups of neurons that makes them different from the deterministic behavior of other parts of the universe. This is consistent because they are part of and were created by that deterministic universe. They are chemicals, matter ejected from an ancient supernova. Therefore, since you are a bundle of deterministic neurons and deterministic subsystems created by a deterministic universe, you cannot have free will. Story 84. Respect your elders. Some older people only deserve to be left alone. Story 85. Hard work gets you to high positions in the workplace. Fuck that. Hard work not only marks you as exploitable to your higher-ups, but in reality it only maintains your current status in the corporation. That is all it ever did, and that is all it will ever do. To get a higher position, you need luck and contacts. Only then will the corporation give you a chance, and only then will your hard work do something of value for you. This is how your incompetent boss got to where they are. They were lucky that a vacancy opened at the right time and place, and they had contacts who gave them a shoe-in on the selection process, or who sabotaged it in their favor. Story 86. Know that your parents and family always love and care for you. Story 87. In order to live, you have to work. Fear, myself included, keeps us working for these corporations that do not care about us. Story 88. Working hard may pay off, but it will not necessarily make you a millionaire. Either you are not rich or you are lucky. Story 89. This is specific to American society. The American dream. It's wild that people still believe it. Story 90. Some people believe the wealthy are successful because they are better than others or because of God's special favor, rather than because they have rigged the system in their favor. Story 91. Of course, there are plenty of depressing takes about society here. I forgot that I'm on Reddit, where people see nothing good in this world or in other humans. To answer your question, the biggest lie society believes is that there is no God. Story 92. That anyone actually cares about anyone other than themselves. Story 93. The worst part is that, while anyone can start a bank, you must spend at least $3 million in professional fees to pass the regulatory review process, which is controlled by the same insiders who use the revolving door. You also need $12 million to qualify. As George Carlin put it, it's a big club and you ain't in it. Story 94. Many believe they can find peace, happiness, and security through money, technology, education, therapy, and so on. No amount of these things can save you or satisfy you the way a relationship with God can. These things are not inherently evil, but pursuing them at the expense of your health or your relationship with God and others becomes sin. Story 95. Not all societies, but some in the United States believe that material things sum up your worth. I was born in the mid-1900s. The 1980s taught me that more is better and that material wealth was more important than anything. I learned that this is not true, but not before I climbed out of debt trying to keep up. Most of my high school friends are still caught up in it. Now they compete with recreational vehicles and with how much time they spend with their grandchildren. Story 96. Oh, here we go again. Anti-God, anti-Trump, anti-Elon comments and nothing about anyone on the left? Yes, it never fails. Story 97. Morality is inherently good. It is a set of rules, potentially arbitrary. People often ignore instances in which morality is used to justify actions they do not like, for example, murder. Story 98. We all have a choice. We live at the whims of world leaders. Story 99. You do not have a real choice in who governs you. You are presented only with the illusion of choice. Story 100. All right, said Susan. I'm not stupid. You're saying humans need fantasies to make life bearable. Really? As if it was some kind of pink pill? No, humans need fantasy to be human. To be the place where the falling angel meets the rising ape. Tooth fairies? Hog fathers? Little. Yes, as practice. You have to start out learning to believe the little lies. So we can believe the big ones? Yes, justice, mercy, duty, that sort of thing. They're not the same at all. You think so? Then take the universe and grind it down to the finest powder and sieve it through the finest sieve, and then show me one atom of justice, one molecule of mercy. And yet you act as if there is some ideal order in the world, as if there is some rightness in the universe by which it may be judged. Yes, but people have got to believe that, or what's the point? My point exactly. Terry Pratchett, Hogfather. Story 101. That's all you have to do. Work hard and you will climb the ladder. Story 102. It's neither my fault nor my responsibility. Story 103. Far too many people believe Donald Trump is a good guy, that the election was stolen from him, that his criminal charges are fake or politically motivated, and that he is acting in the best interests of average Americans. Story 104. That democracy and free market capitalism actually exist. Story 105. You cannot change or reach someone with facts, proof, and logical arguments alone. People change only when they want to, and they accept facts only when they are willing or when the facts fit their existing beliefs. It is futile to try to convince someone unwilling to change. There is nothing you can do to persuade them. That is why therapy is not a magic cure-all. It works only if you allow it to work. No matter how much irrefutable evidence you present to someone opposed to vaccines, if they want to believe vaccines cause autism, they will always find ways to dismiss it. Story 106. In the United States, people say that we are a meritocracy. We are not, and I am near the top of the socioeconomic ladder and can say this confidently. Story 107. Things get better when the right people are put in charge. Story 108. There are people who do not believe Santa is real. I saw him when I was a kid. He is completely real. Story 109. Happily ever after. The idea that marriage is an ideal spiritual realm that will make all your problems disappear the moment you say, I do, is taught by fairy tales and Disney movies when we are children. The reality is that a healthy marriage does not just happen. It requires effort. Believing that it will somehow take care of itself is likely the source of many marital problems couples experience 5 or 10 years into their marriage. Story 110. Human nature favors cooperation rather than self-interest. Story 111. There is an invisible man who lives in the sky, and he is watching you while you masturbate. He has a list of rules, 1/3 of which serve to validate his ego. If you violate those rules, he will throw you into a pit of fire where you will burn in agony forever. But he loves you. Story 112. The world is not a meritocracy. If you're born very rich but not very smart, you're significantly more likely to be successful than if you're born very poor and very smart. Story 113. Justice and fairness should exist. In Australia, a wealthy businessman hit a child with a car for allegedly taking part in a ding-dong ditch prank. The child was mostly unharmed, though slightly startled and lightly injured. The businessman only started acting concerned once he realized a camera was rolling because the child was cycling. He received a fine of $700 and then complained about death threats. There was no real justice. $700 is a pittance to a man like him. He should have faced penalties he could not avoid by paying money. Community service, a short jail term, anything he could not escape. The fact that a class of people do not face true justice is immoral. The fact that people in a supposedly just country starve and suffer because their jobs do not pay them enough is unacceptable. True justice can be attained, but the powers that be will never allow that to happen because helping your fellow human is labeled as socialism. Story 114. My political party cares about me. If we elected enough of them, my problems would be solved. Story 115. Everyone can have their own truth, but by definition there is only one truth. Story 116. That cisgender heterosexual white men know what they are doing even half the time. Story 117. There is a way the world is, and we cannot change it. Story 118. Some say the truth will come out. No, it will not. Too many people need to believe lies to function. The most insidious of these lies is the reflexive belief that they are good people. When someone wants to believe a lie, no amount of evidence will change their mind. They will double down when faced with contrary evidence. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.